Okay, good morning, everyone. This is my first time to be in the chair position, so please bear with me as I go through the agenda and learn how to do that. I am prepared for everything else, however. So we do have a quorum. I don't know if I need to ask each person officially. Okay. So I'd like to call this meeting to order at 9:02 a.m. We do not have any on-site packets, and there are no additions or revisions to the agenda. Are there any announcements?
Madam Chair, I would say, this is Linda Davies. I would say that we don't have an addition or a revision to the agenda, but I believe there is an executive session that's being needed to be placed on the agenda.
Yes.
So, since it's with disciplinary counsel, perhaps it could be going under the new business piece where discipline number 3, discipline statute, whatever reviews, maybe that's their updates that they can, I don't know. If
Do we need to make it, do we need to do a motion for that, Linda?
there is a motion, I think that needs to be read. I think you need
Okay.
to set a time limit for that, or do you do that when you go into?
You do that when you go into
Okay.
executive session.
Okay,
Alrighty.
okay.
So under,
Do that before quasi judicial, is that what we're saying?
okay,
Good again.
so under additions and revisions to the agenda, then we need a motion for an executive session, which will be under new business and with am I saying it correctly?
I don't think we need to amend the agenda to do
Okay.
that, since it's already listed. We'll just do the executive session motion right before quasi judicial.
Okay, great.
Does that make sense? Is
Thank
that-
you.
Yeah.
It's confusing.
As I learned.
Yeah.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the minutes from our September 4th investigative committee.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes from the September 4th, 2025 investigative committee as written.
As the Goldsmith board member, I second. Thank you. And the next item on the agenda is unfinished business. And I believe, Linda, you have legislative review plans and sample form introduction. Would you please share them?
Yes, and on page 7 of your packet is the general information as to the process. Andy has been working on that. Page 10 lists the statutes by review year that is assigned to the investigative committee board members. You will have 10 statute regulations that are requiring review in 2026. I've noted that there are some overlap with what the statute review task force is working on and this requirement for 2026. I don't know if there can be some sort of like continuity of that. But I just need to know if in March, how do you want me to list which statutes you want to start reviewing? Because they need to be done by December of 2026. The 10 that are on page 10. If you have any questions, Amy can explain the plans and.
Are there any questions?
Well, how do we usually just go from the top down, correct?
Mhm.
That's pretty much was that.
So there's 10 and 20 for 26.
Right.
Yeah, maybe we just take 4 and 2 over the next year.
Okay, so I'll just start from the top and put the first 4 on for March.
I might just, Madam Chair, if I might, this is Andy Martin. I would just note that there is a sample in there of the report that you'll be getting for those 4. And actually, it's one of the ones that the statute review committee. So you have a sample there of what you'll be getting and how that process will work for you.
Is that in the packet?
It should,
I
is
believe
it
so,
say,
because it's the page. As you have.
is it 11 or 12?
Page 7 was the general, so it'd be 7, 8, or 9. But if you.
Oh, I see, yes.
Yeah. I'll put an example in, the next packet for March, as well as what you need to do for those ones.
Thank you, Linda.
Okay.
All right. So anything else on this? Let's move ahead. Okay. The next order of business is statute review task force report, and Brenda has a report on that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to provide this committee an update, that the statute review work group has met 3 times since our last board meeting to review a variety of statutes that this board has looked at and have been proposed as revised for several years. But in light of the public hearings and other matters, and because the investigative committee for the past year has been expressing a desire to have additional updates and concerns addressed, as have our assistant AGs that we work with. We really dug into a variety of them. First, I want to share with you who was on the task force. This was not a committee, not subject to Cora, because there are only 2 board members present, myself and Representative Melissa Oropeza, who serves on the Board of Nursing as well. We from staff, Carol Moreland, Linda Davies, Adrian Carrero, Andy Martin, also participated in this. Charles Mashirs, our general counsel, Rachel Kinney, Sydney Winslow, and Samantha Harrington, our disciplinary counsel, also participated, and Jesse Burris as well. Representative Sandy Pickert from the Kansas House of Representatives was included in this task force, as was Stephanie Beecraft from KNAP, Dustin Baker from KAPN, Vicki McGrath from KSNA, Carolyn Sharp from the Governor's Office, Monica Doffing from Stevens Doffing Law, and Terry Seek from the Kansas Hospital Association. So we tried to invite a large number of stakeholder groups that are interested in and have obviously a lot of vested interest in what this organization does and how it impacts their members, and balancing that with our purpose and need to protect the public. So we dug into and reviewed a variety of statutes that, again, as I mentioned before, have been previously looked at and addressed. And I would say I was really pleased. We had great discussion amongst all the stakeholder groups. We had a lot of consensus in most areas, a very few areas where we know that different organizations are going to have different interests and that they will represent those accordingly. But just to be specific, and so it's on the record here, the statutes and regulations that we reviewed included KSA 65, 1120, 1120A, 1121A, and 1129, and KSA 74, 110, and KAR regulation 63, 110. We also discussed a potential new statute to introduce around impairment. And we also had some discussion about other alternative to discipline and expungement and those kinds of things. But I think we're primarily focused on those that have already been drafted and vetted pretty extensively, but now we have a little bit more feedback. I've asked Carol to provide for Wednesday some of this information to the board, and my hope is that after this committee has a little bit of discussion here, that the board would consider making a motion to authorize Carol and staff to work with our assistant AGs to incorporate the last little bit of feedback that was garnered from that group and get them over to the revisor's office. We will then need to be working on how we advance these, and our hope, I don't know that it's realistic, but our hope is that in combination with our staff, that perhaps Representative Sandy Pickert and Representative Melissa Oropeza would consider championing some of those. We also need a fingerprinting statute to be considered. We are aware and pretty confident that there will be other bills introduced that impact this board. And if nothing else, this was a great exercise for us to be more prepared for if a bill is proposed that has provisions that are contrary to what we believe is our charge to protect the public. We'll be prepared to respond to that. We also have expressed multiple times our wish and concern that any legislation be vetted by this board, in order not to negatively impact our participation as a state in the nurse compact or be inconsistent with CMS and other federal regulations that this board has to adhere to. So we don't know that we'll get an advanced look at legislation that's proposed by other individuals or groups or representatives. But in the spirit of transparency, we have invited lots of people to the table, and we hope we'll be invited to the table if that time comes, if something else comes up that's not necessarily in keeping with the discussion that took place in the statute work group. Carol, do you want to add anything to that, or Linda? Okay. And that's my
Thank you.
report. If you would like any other information, and if members of the public are watching this particular committee and have concerns or issues about any of those particular statutes, I would encourage them to contact our staff and pass that along to them so that we have an understanding of where they are coming from.
Thank you, Brenda. And we, on behalf of Audrey and I, really appreciate all the work you did. All right, we will move on then. And the next item on the agenda is the Evoke case management status update, and that will be you, Linda. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Evoke Case Management went live on November 3rd. And we started with just the risk managers for the facilities and that to be able to submit their complaints. That is going very well. We had one issue internally where we were unable to edit something, so that has been corrected. Colton has learned the back end, so we're able to kind of like find things and correct them as needed. But otherwise, I've not heard of any complaints. Stephanie, have you gotten any other concerns? Then we did get a concern that somebody, I think two people requested some sort of confirmation that they had submitted the complaint. And I think they needed it for their KDHE reporting logs for their surveys and things. And so then we worked with Colton and he was able to kind of get that to where now once they submit a complaint, then they get a confirmation that the complaint was submitted, so it meets their requirements too. So as we learn of things, we are addressing those. I am on with the Kirkham, and they have a forum established and they've given me a little, what do you call it, like a little chat area. So if things come through on that, then it will flag to me and I can also communicate to all risk managers through that. So as anybody has anything, if they feel comfortable putting there, if they have more updates for whatever on our end, we can stick it on there and then all risk managers will be notified at the same time. So it's a way to kind of keep the communication going and the transparency. Next steps are the complaints are coming in and getting worked. We're still working them professional review wise the old fashioned way, just because I haven't had time to transition to the new way yet. But now after this week, my goal is to start doing professional review through the Evoke process and then training Carol because she's the second step of that piece as well. And then assigning a few cases in the Evoke system to the nurse investigator so they can start the process of learning also. We're not moving everything at once because we just want to make sure that if there are questions or concerns that those things get addressed. So those things will be starting to work. And then also we're going to start having a conversation with licensing about the application review process. That, you know, the chair meets with us weekly. So we're going to be looking to see how we can do those through the Evoke process. So we'll be training you first in that process because you'll be able to see that and you'll be able to make your comments and things that way. But it'll be a process. And then once we get that figured out, we'll roll out all of those things to the other board members. I don't anticipate any cases to be done through Evoke, probably and ready for board review until probably May, June of next year. But that gives us time then to get training done and to make sure that we have whatever processes are needing to get, you know, reconfigured or whatever on our end. It gives us time to do that. We might go earlier than that, but I doubt it with all the other changes that are going on. So that's the tentative plan. So
If I might add, thank you, Madam Chair and Linda for that update. I will say that we're gonna need to do like a specialized training for each of you so that you can go through it. So we might want to work on a time when it gets close to that time to spend individually with each of you. We can probably do it remotely to show you the portal and how that works. And then as you're starting to think of things, one of the next steps for us is to develop some reporting capabilities out of the system. So if you can think of anything that might be of interest to you all, that would be helpful feedback to you so that we can start designing those reports and those sorts of things. But the team did a real good job getting things up and running. And so we're using this as the hopeful next launch pad to move the licensing department into it as well. So got wood.
I think it's great progress.
Yeah, they did a really good job.
Julie and Linda. Right, any other comments regarding the above case management? So we'll move on to new business then, and we have KNAP statistical summary, and Linda will give us an update on that.
You have it on page 11 of your packet. I don't have an update from KNAP this time. And then the statistics for this quarter compared to the previous quarter. So I don't see that there's been any drastic changes or anything that stood out for me more than before. So I know she's working on her surveys to participants, but I don't think that that's gone live yet.
No other comments, then we'll move on to the next item, which is adjust culture and nursing regulation. Is that national?
North
Council?
Carolina,
Or North
sorry.
Carolina. North Carolina Board of Nursing Complaint Evaluation Tool, and Linda, that would be you as well. Thank you.
Yeah, so beginning on page 12 is the, Carol and I met with North Carolina Board of Nursing. And we received their complaint evaluation tool. And they shared with us how they use it and their design for that. They are willing to allow KSBN to adopt and adapt it based off of our state law and our Nurse Practice Act, to promote and educate employers. But they would ask that we, give credit to North Carolina Board of Nursing for the original, and that is fine. They also included other algorithms in your packet. Well, I include other algorithms in your packet that are pretty much the same. North Carolina Board of Nursing, their complaint evaluation tool is used, and they have a different setup. So what I understood is that they have like nurse consultants who will travel the state and go into each the facilities and help educate the people reviewing incidents that occurred in their facilities and deciding whether or not this rises as a human error or is an at-risk behavior, or is it risky behavior, reckless behavior. So those pretty much, I think, geared towards like your breach of confidentiality type, your medication administration errors, your medication documentation, those type of errors is how they use the CDT tool. Because all drug diversions, workplace impairments, abuse, allegations, what was the other one that all of these, those complaints do come to the board. So they don't use this complaint evaluation tool necessarily on site. The board still gets that report. From what I understood, I can see, as we get complaints all the time for everything, and I can see us adopting this and adapting this complaint evaluation tool for how we review complaints that come in, to see like, if there's been education at the facility. Do we need to open a case unless there's pattern behavior that we know about that the facility may not know about, those type of things. So I think it's a good tool for us to start kind of discussing and using and seeing how we can incorporate into our processes. And I'd be willing to, meet with Carolyn to kind of like figure out a process and see how we can maybe go forward from there. They also follow the Just Culture algorithm developed by David Marks, used for evaluating events and determining whether the action, like I said, warrants whether consoling, counseling, remediation, or even they said punishment. It links the behavioral choices and the potential risks, identifies the system issues, not just that are reliant on they're not just reliant on the outcome of what happened to the patient for determination of remediation or looking at the entire process. And that, I think, is what just culture is pretty much about. It's looking at everything, not just the final outcome, was the
Right.
patient harmed? So the threat of disciplinary action does not prevent errors from occurring. Just culture promotes the learning from practice errors and assigning accountability, evaluates the issues consistently, and ensures compliance with mandatory reporting requirements. I said boundary issues was the other one that is not used, and this tool is not used for. It is sexual misconduct. Boundary issues are, the complaints come straight to the board. So those all have to be reported. So it's a good tool to start with, I think.
So Linda, can I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
Is this more to inform risk compliance people on what to report to the board, or do you see that us using this as a tool to determine, or for staff to determine what comes to this committee, or for this committee to determine in its disciplinary action, or is it all of those things?
Kansas law is different from North Carolina law, so I can see where we would probably start by adapting it and adopting it for our internal purposes of reviewing complaints that come in, because the risk managers have risk management statutes that they have to follow for standard of care violations and who and how they report. 5 years down the road, how that all plays out, I don't know. There's been discussion, I know, with the CARCA members as to what's the difference with an SOC2 and an SOC3. And so there's, who makes that determination. That's got the peer review committees at each facility. So, I mean, I don't know how in the future this might help everybody, but I think initially we can start by using it for our own internal review, and how to kind of like figure out which cases maybe need to be presented versus maybe there's a way to kind of like delegate certain cases to be handled a different way. I don't know what that looks like. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Thank you. I can see it being helpful as for me personally, as I review. It's like a rubric in some ways. You can see it very helpful.
There's something I would like to add.
Mhm.
I would like to see how many facilities keep having the same concerns at them, like the nursing homes where medications are delivered. And then, it seems like that process needs to be corrected in the facility for the protection of the patients, the nurses. It just seems like this is a repetitive thing. So if we're seeing facilities with these concerns over and over and over again, we're just chasing around. I mean, they need to fix that.
I can see,
Did want to add more to you. I just
Yeah.
feel like this is a piece of the puzzle
yeah.
because
So I think with maybe an EVA, we might be able to kind of like add a button or something that if there's a facility issue or something that way in a report, developing a report, then we can kind of maybe pull those documents. Currently, I would have to manually.
well, I don't want you to.
No, I'm just saying for what we're looking at for this next 6 months, maybe we can visit about that, Stephanie and Carol, and kind of figure out how we can possibly add that piece.
I think it
And
would
then maybe
help
the other type of reporting, yeah.
to prevent continued from the same facilities.
Okay, because we do document the type of, the facility that is reporting, and we document the complainant type, whether it is patient or patient family, whether it's risk management, whether it's non-risk management, but a healthcare worker in the DON, a CNO, or if it's like, that we do document those type of things.
Yeah, I think to echo,
Okay.
Audrey, this page 13, the mitigating factors and aggravating factors. I do think we frequently are posed with and take into consideration what kind of environment that nurse was operating in at the time, who else was there, the level of chaos, the level of or lack of training, those kinds of things. And we do have repeat facilities where these things seem to never be resolved.
Okay,
And so if there's some way that once we get a certain number of those are triggered as a report to KDAG or somewhere else, that I think that would, because it's not our job to monitor the facility, but there should, I think it is incumbent upon us to say, there's a real problem at this
Mhm.
facility.
facility.
And we've had 3 complaints in a year or 5 complaints in 2 years about the same facility, so that
Mhm.
there's a trigger, because I never know how many of these things go to both places, or if they start here and.
Very true, very true. And I don't know either, but I know that sometimes off of the complaint, I'll send the complaint to KDHE or
Yeah, I've seen that on
KDEN.
your
Yeah,
spreadsheet.
to document that, because I don't know if they're being made aware of something, but during the investigations, I know that the nurse investigators are starting to really dive into the areas surrounding the incident, not just kind of, it's like, we need to know for your sake what happened that day in the life, was administration aware of these issues and had never taken them into consideration? That would probably be another type of report we could do with Carcom, with my membership on Carcom. I feel like, and Ruth is a member too, and I feel like we have good rapport with them. And we're able to kind of like, easily talk to them as far as if we do see facility issues, at least get in the door to say, who do I need to go talk to next, to say, we need to know how you can fix the system, because, or are you aware that the system is broken, because you're gonna have more nurses that you'll report for the same type of issue, so. It's a good start. I think that we can probably figure this out, so.
It sounds like for us as the board, summative totals and establishing a pattern would be helpful. Is it within your scope, Linda, then to give feedback? It sounds like it is to the facilities. If there is a pattern that we are seeing, and that's a systems concern that we have, using the mitigating and aggravating factors, because I use those, I identify those for cases, and all of that is taken into account if there's a system issue.
Would it be helpful to know type of facility? So like long-term care, home health, that
It
sort of
would
thing?
be, yeah.
Thank you. Because we're seeing a lot of this in the long-term care. Their practices are, if something comes up, I throw it in a drawer. It's the wrong drawer, comes up missing. That kind of situation. I mean, straight up, this is what I'm looking at, and I'm thinking, well, we're seeing a lot of this in these type facilities. So overall, their process might need to be updated.
Well, whoever is their overarching regulatory maybe is not unaware of needing to do some education and
The
training.
healthcare license, facilities licensing
Right.
and cert.
Yeah. Okay.
Agreed, because they will be surveyed.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, so we can look at this.
Thank you.
Separate from notes first. That's helpful.
To do what? Oh. Yeah, I can't be. Sorry, you were asking me to do something Thursday. Not this week.
Well, if no further discussion, then we'll move on to the disciplinary statute reviews. And Linda, please guide me. Is this where we do the motion, or do we need to cover something else first?
I don't think that there's something to,
I
mean,
think this was a holdover from the last meeting and is what I just reported on the statute work group. We had
Okay.
established the group, we had talked about it, but we hadn't established it. So I think that was a placeholder on this agenda, and
okay.
that's my.
Because I'm new back on the committee, and so.
Yeah, I think we had said, oh, let's put that in December so that we go through all these things intentionally, and instead we went with the statute work group to do that review process in between.
Okay, that's great, because I was unsure what that meant from the previous minutes.
Okay, I think we're ready to call for a motion then for our executive session.
Madam Chair, pursuant to KSA 75-43-19 I move that the board recess in the executive session for how many minutes? Do you think?
I don't think I'm in it. And
I think she might have just went to the fund out.
Carol, how many minutes do you think we need for this session?
30.
For 30 minutes and reconvene at 10:02 a.m. The remote meeting will be reconvened by Zoom and in the Kansas State Board of Nursing Library Room in the KSBN offices on the 10th floor, Landon Office Building, 900 Southwest Jackson, Kansas 66612, as stated in the notice of the meeting that was sent to individuals who requested the notice and is published on the board's website at www.ksbn.kansas.gov. The justification is consultation with the board's legal counsel, Assistant Attorneys General Sydney Winslow, Samantha Harrington, and Rachel Kenny Townsend, that would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. The board's executive administrator, Carol Moreland, are included as the client. The subject matter to be discussed in the executive session concerns legal issues related to litigation updates on discipline cases and disciplinary counsel processes.
Thank you. A second,
Edry Goldsmith, board member, I second.
and we'll vote on it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same? None? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you.
It will be back cold.
Okay, I'm calling the meeting back to order and we will entertain a motion for quasi judicial.
All right, Andrew Goldsmith, board member, I move that the meeting of the investigation committee be closed to deliberate on matters relating to decisions involving the exercise of quasi judicial functions as authorized by KSA 2013 sub 75-4318.
There's the,
G1.
Sharp second.
so we'll take a vote on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. None, okay, motion passes. So we'll move to quasi judicial.
Okay, I guess I'll see you again, folks.
Okay, sorry. Hello, everyone. We're calling the meeting back to order at 11:43 a.m. And next on the agenda is a review of several categories on the spreadsheets. And we will be reading some motions to vote on.
Madam Chair, I move that,
Did we need the first one to, find reasonable grounds, or that's accurate?
that's part.
Okay, that was just.
I move that the investigative committee find that reasonable grounds exist for believing that the applicant or licensee is guilty of violating the Kansas Nurse Practice Act in the following cases, and that those cases be continued for further proceedings conducted in accordance with the provisions of the Kansas Administrative Procedure Act.
Adri Goldsmith, board member, I, second that.
Okay, let's vote on it. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, the same.
Madam Chair, I move that the investigative committee find the following cases be closed for the reason that no action is needed.
Adri Goldsmith, board member, I second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Passed.
I move that the investigative committee approve by consensus the case disposition represented on the spreadsheet titled reinstatement applications.
Adri Goldsmith, board member, I second.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. The motion passes.
I move that the investigative committee approve by consensus the case disposition represented on the spreadsheet titled conversions.
Adri Goldsmith, board member, I second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion passes.
I move that the investigative committee approve by consensus the case disposition represented on the spreadsheet titled endorsement applications.
Adri Goldsmith, board member, I second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. The motion passes.
I move that the investigative committee approve by consensus the case disposition represented on the spreadsheet titled inactivated by staff.
Adri Goldsmith, board member, I second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion passes.
I move that the investigative committee approve by consensus the case disposition represented on the spreadsheet titled new grads.
Adri Goldsmith, board member, second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion passes.
I move that the investigative committee approve by consensus the case disposition represented on the spreadsheet titled cases not opened.
Adri Goldsmith, board member, second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion passes.
I move that the investigative committee approve by consensus the case disposition represented on the spreadsheet titled unlicensed practice.
Adri Goldsmith, board member, second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion passes.
That's it.
Okay. The next item of business is the agenda for the March 2026 committee meeting. Do we have any agenda items that need to be covered?
Madam Chair, it's Linda. I put down the legislative review and the samples, you know, the first four.
I'm sorry, the legislative review.
Yeah, of the 10 that you
Right.
have to do, so I put down that we're gonna put the first four and on to the
Okay.
sample. Do you need another statute review task force update?
I was thinking maybe we just call it, review of any pending legislation affecting Kansas Board of Nursing. Something very generic to anticipate whatever comes up.
Do you want me to do an evoke update with whatever we've got?
I
coming up
I
at
would
the
really
time?
appreciate that. Thank you.
We talked about maybe doing a draft of the complaint evaluation tool and its utilization internally, and we can maybe give an update on
Okay.
that.
The one from North Carolina.
How we can adapt it to our,
Okay.
Could we also get an update on, any changes made to the website based on all the sessions that have been taking place related to building out the kind of disciplinary investigative side of the website?
yep, and I'll include Adrian in that also. A KNAP statistical summary, we'll get that again. Do you want me to provide an update from her
Yes.
as to what she's doing? And then you had said something about like the report for maybe seeing if we can do, I'm working on a sanction reference guide for violation to what you currently do for outcome. If I'm gonna give a guide, that I can include then the facility type and the issues and maybe how often.
Is
you
it
type
going to
the
be too
facility.
soon for that?
I can see what I can get done for March and if I can get anything done.
It's a pretty big
It's a pretty big ask.
deal, and I'd rather we had it kind of,
So maybe it could be like a June
I
time.
think
then
so.
could Probably
You
do
do
something
time
by
to figure out
June.
what you need, what you.
Okay.
Because it involves the evoke case management and that,
Yeah, Evoke
and
will,
that's. still
Evoke
in
won't, but I can maybe
process.
take what we have currently and just kind of give an idea of where
Right.
we're at. I mean, what we might see, but I've got a lot of other,
We understand it'll be rough.
it'll be real rough. It'll be a start, to kind of just at least look at it. And there's also a spring, CARCA meeting, so I mean, it's, if there is anything that wants up. I can
Do you
also-
want that to go on the agenda too,
What?
the spring, an update on that or anything?
No, that's
Because I'm
just,
gonna
I
do
just
it.
go and talk with the risk managers there.
Okay.
I'm not slated to speak this time, which is nice.
Okay.
So-
And then an executive session.
And then we need an executive session, yes.
Okay. May I go ahead and list these, then restate them to make sure? Okay. So we're going to have a legislative review, the first 4 of the 10 statutes, correct? That need to be reviewed in 2026. A review of pending legislation affecting KSBN, an evoke case management update. The complaint evaluation tool update, see where we're at with that. Update to changes made to the website. KNAP stats update. And then, I think the last one was the executive session. Did I miss any? We okay? Is that where we're at? I just wanted to review that. Right. Need some guidance. Are we ready to adjourn then? Okay, so we need a motion for adjournment.
Madam Chair, I move we adjourn. the meeting, do you need further business?
And Andrew Grossman, board member, I second.
Okay, do we need to do opposed or that's just it? Okay, all right, thank you, everybody.
Okay, see you later. Oh.
Yeah.